This is Andrew Klavan on The Culture. Welcome to the New York Times. As most of you know, our job here at the Times is to provide our hundreds of readers, and by extension, the universe, with those choice, hand-picked nuggets of information that will guide them in right thinking. But did you also know that the New York Times is the newspaper of record? That's right. That means that we are actually the official arbiters of reality. Anything we don't report is so thoroughly blotted from the collective consciousness that it actually, in some sense, ceases to exist. For example, take these standard issue newsroom clocks that tell us the time in New York, Los Angeles, and the vast existential darkness that lies between. If I don't mention these clocks, they simply disappear. Watch. I know, it's amazing, isn't it? And it works with Islamofascists, too. Now, as you can imagine, because we exert such an overwhelming influence over all your lives, we're constantly being deluged with letters and emails crying, "Help us, New York Times, enlighten us, guide us, show us the way." So today, I've decided to take some time off from knitting the complex phenomenological fabric of being to answer some of your questions. Here's an exciting one to start off with, all the way from far off 95th Street. We'll want to keep the stamp on that envelope for sure. Dear New York Times, evidence of fraud and distortion in the reporting of climate data has mounted to the point where many respected scientists feel that temperature measurements are wholly unreliable. And yet the Times continues to maintain that man-made global warming is settled science. Why is that? Sincerely, Nanook of the North. Well, Nanook, your letter just goes to show that a little knowledge can be a dangerous thing. Here you've gone and read some other news sources that tell you climate reporting has been corrupted for political ends. But did you know that every time someone denies the existence of man-made global warming, a handicapped person dies? You didn't, did you? And now some poor cripple lies dead because of you. That's sad. Here's a letter signed Catholic in Canarsie. Dear New York Times, for more than 2 decades, an ultra-liberal homosexual archbishop discouraged reporting on pedophile priests in Wisconsin. Now, your paper is trying to pin the cover-up on Pope Benedict XVI. Can you explain why? I sure can, Catholic. You see, Pope Benedict XVI believes that Jesus Christ is the incarnate word of the ever-living God. Here's another letter. Dear New York Times, my mommy reads your newspaper. She says if I'm a bad girl, Sarah Palin is going to get me. Will Sarah Palin really get me? Love, Susie. Yes, she will, Susie, because Sarah Palin is a woman, and people like women and blacks are what we call oppressed minorities. We here at the New York Times have to think very hard about what's best for them, and if they disagree with us or start thinking for themselves, I'm afraid they turn into slavering demons who spirit away naughty children and devour their flesh. So, sorry, Susie, Sarah is coming. Bye. Dear New York Times, when filmmaker James O'Keefe videotaped members of the liberal vote-rigging mob Acorn attempting to aid and abet tax dodging and underage prostitution, your paper reported nothing for 6 days. And yet, when O'Keefe was arrested, it was on the front page instantly. How can a famous man's arrest be important if the things he did to become famous weren't important? Signed, Confused. Thanks for writing Confused. And now you've ceased to exist. Well, I'm afraid I just have time to fire a few hundred more of our workers before I head off to the Hamptons. So goodbye for now from the New York Times, where we print all the news that fits. This is Andrew Klavan on The Culture.